So we are going to define oligopoly. Oligopoly is a market structure in which a few firms dominate. So when a market is shared between a few firms, it is said to be highly concentrated. Only a few firms dominate. For example, British Airways, Air France, oil companies, etc. Automobile companies are also a fairly good example for oligopoly. So when these firms comes together and try to manage the entire situation, we can call them oligopolist. It is an imperfect market condition in between monopoly and monopolistic competition. We have already discussed the market structure, the bandwidth, pure competition, perfect competition and imperfect competition. And this is a part of imperfect competition. So each of the seller will be selling a substantial portion of the total output. So they are having their own significant market power. But too much competition or too much pressure will not be there. So the competition takes place among the few. In some of the cases, there will be only two producers or sellers of the commodity. In such a condition, it is known as duopoly. In an interesting note, the Monetary Policy Review Committee or Monetary Policy Committee of the Reserve Bank of India has noticed one peculiar aspect. That is, during the pandemic, the oligopolistic core has grown wide and they have started to exercise the pricing power. So an oligopoly is a form of market where a sector or the industry is dominated by a small group of large companies. Now coming to the major features of oligopoly. Generally, there are four major features that specify oligopoly. The first one is interdependence. So the firms are always interdependent. So that means they will be always depending on the price that is charged. They will be observing the level of output. They will be keen on every move. If a firm reduces price, for example, the other firms will also try to maintain somewhat common price level. If a firm raises the price, others will not follow because they may lose their market. If it reduces the price, again the market share will be lost. So they have to manage the price level. So for that, a lot of observation will take place. The second important characteristic feature of oligopoly is advertisement or selling cost. They rely on this. Sales promotion activities are the most important aspect of oligopoly. There will be persuasive sales promotion activities and advertisements. This is meant to capture the market share, the customers, etc. That is to attract the customers. Group behavior is one of the major characteristic feature of oligopoly. Since it is a few interdependent firms, each firm fights against others in order to satisfy their individual interest. Individual firms may work in union for their common interest. There is no single acceptable theory of oligopoly of group behavior. Price leadership is possibly a solution to the problem of oligopoly. And price leadership is something in which the dominant firm or the barometric firm or the low cost firm decides the market price. Another important feature of oligopoly is the demand curve is indeterminate. In all the other market forms, be it perfect competition, be it monopoly, be it monopolistic competition, demand curves are definite and it is given. We know what it is. We know the amount. But under the case of oligopoly, the curve is indeterminate. The demand curve shows the demand relationship. So it always depends upon the reactions of other producers or other firms. And another speciality is the presence of kinged demand curve. There is a king. And this model is also known as VC model, price stickiness. So the kinged demand curve is used in order to explain the price policy under oligopoly. So it is also known as the kinged demand curve model introduced by VC. So it is not going to explain with price and output, but it is trying to establish that once a price is set, the firms try to follow the same price. There will be not much of a change. So the price is sticky. So the demand curve will have a kink. Oligopoly is of different types, like collusive oligopoly, non-collusive oligopoly, etc. Non-collusive oligopoly is the one in which the firms are independent. There is no coalition. They are rivals. The price will be determined by the firms themselves. They will be producing homogeneous products and they are independent. There is another form of oligopoly known as collusive oligopoly, and that is explained by using the examples of cartels. If it is collusive oligopoly, instead of competing, the firms will come together to fix the prices and the output in the industry. So the firms are always associated with each other, and it is usually done through price leadership. And three types of leadership can be seen. One is the low cost firm. If the cost of production is low, it can determine the price structure. Another one is the dominant firm, which is the largest firm, which is having the major portion of the industrial output. Definitely it can also have a say. Another one is barometric price leadership. Barometer acts as a measure. So this is one firm which is intelligent, quite intelligent enough. The firm may not be large, the firm may not be having the lowest cost, but every firms know the barometer can read the market really well. In such a condition, everybody follows what the barometer deals with or decides. Thus, the firms may follow what the barometer firm assigns. So, such activities are done or usually seen in an oligopoly market. So then, there are different other types of oligopoly that we can see, like based on product differentiation, based on the entry of firms, based on agreement, and also based on price leadership. If it is based on price differentiation, oligopoly is classified as pure or perfect oligopoly and differentiated oligopoly. Differentiated oligopoly means firms in the industry do not produce identical or differentiated products. So it is different. The output will be varying. If it is based on perfect oligopoly, the firms will be producing the same kind of output. Another way of classifying oligopoly is on the basis of entry. Depending upon the entry of other firms, oligopoly markets may be classified as open and closed. If it is a closed oligopoly, the existing few firms will not allow the newer ones to enter. If it is an open one, anybody can enter and move out anytime. And in some cases, agreements are present. So it is collusive and non-collusive oligopoly. Collusive means there is agreement, and the other one it is non-collusive where there is no agreement. And on the basis of leadership, we can classify oligopoly into partial or full oligopoly. Under price leadership, if there is a formal agreement, the leader will be fixing it. This form is of collusion. The oligopoly market where price leadership exists can be termed as partial oligopoly. So the industry will be dominated by the large firm called the price leader or barometer or even the dominant firm. In a full oligopoly, there will be no such leader. Each firm can deal with whatever they want. The price, the output, the market share, market structure, whatever decision that they have to do, they can make it on their own. Another simple case of oligopoly is the case in which there are two firms, that is duopoly. Duo means two. So where there are only two producers. The most prominent model is presented by Augustin Cournot, a French economist, in the year 1838. So they recognizes the mutual dependence of mutual independence and dependence of the firms. So oligopoly is a market structure that you can see in almost every sphere. In the case of automobiles, in the case of air traffic, in the case of other dealings, you can see the oligopolistic market structure. Cartels are the best examples for collusive oligopoly. Collusive oligopoly is formed on the basis of certain understanding or agreement among firms. Here, they do not compete with each other. Instead, they come together, they combine together in order to decide on the prices, output, and market share in the industry. So, it is an association of firms. For example, Association of Oil Producing Nations, OPEC, is a most important example. So, when the oil producing companies come together again, we can see a cartel. So, cartel agreement represents a complete form of collusion among the oligopolists. They come together on output decision, price, production, quota, supervision, and every other market activities. Cartel works with a board of control at the head of affairs. It calculates the marginal cost, it calculates the marginal revenue, and decide on what should be the price. So now we are going to use the diagram in order to explain the decision making process. So the industries MC and MR is shown in panel C. You can see MC cuts from below. The average revenue curve, which is also equal to the demand curve, is downward sloping, and so the marginal revenue curve will also be downward sloping. It is placed in panel C, and at MC is equal to MR condition, the output is decided. So that line is extended up to point P where it meets AR curve. Now it is extended to the left side, it meets the Y axis. Now we know the price. So the total output in the industry will be OQ plus OQ1. That means we are combining the panel A and panel B, which is representing firm A and firm B. So in the case of firm A, which is shown in the panel A, MC cuts from below. Average cost is comparatively above, and so we can see the level of profit that it has gained. The market share of each firm can be obtained by drawing the diagram or from the diagram. The points of intersection C1 and C2 will show the level of output of firm A and firm B. For firm A it is OQ1 and for firm B it is OQ2. When these two are combined together, we get industry output. So the price minus average cost will give the level of profit for firm's output A, and the profit for B also, the average cost which will be deducted from the profit, that is the price. The profit is so computed and that is maximum for each other. The firms are not interested to change their price and output. The result is stability of price and output so that they can manage the market well. From the diagram, the point C is where MC is equal to MR and it determines the level of output. And in order to find the price, we have extended it. In both cases, for firm A and B, it is having ample amount of profit, but output is different for both firm A and B. Combined contribution will be the market output. So this is for the case of a central cartel, centralized cartel. So while the cartel is functioning, it can create certain problems or issues. Some issues will emerge. So, what are those issues? What if there are some mistakes in the case of estimation of market demand? It may occur. The marginal cost may not be estimated properly in some cases, and since it is related with negotiations, it may take a long time for negotiations, price, output, profit share, etc. It is not possible to make an agreement in some cases. And when the price is determined, it is sticky. So, what if the cost condition changes? If the cost is increasing and the stickiness of price will be really an issue, a big issue for most of the firms. Even if there are some sort of negotiations, some members may not be in agreement. They may violate the rules and regulations. If the cartel price is too high, what happens? The members may not charge it because they fear that the customers may move away from them. They fear entry, so they try to have an entry preventing price. The centralized cartel may have the existence of high cost firms. They may not have much of a market share. They may lose their goodwill, experienced labor force, and also established market. And sometimes they may drop out of the cartel. Another form of cartel or agreement, collusive kind of an oligopoly, is that of market sharing cartel. If it is a market sharing cartel, there will be a uniform price which is set for each level of output. So, the share of output to be produced by each firm is decided. For that, there can be two criteria. So, if it is a centralized cartel, we do not have such criteria. If it is a market sharing cartel, it is meant to solve the issues of centralized cartels. In that, there are non-price competition agreements and sharing of market by agreement on quota. A non-price competition agreement is a loose form of cartel. So, here there is a uniform price for negotiations. The member firms are free to vary the style of their product and marketing strategies. But this is a highly unstable kind of cartel. If it is for sharing of market by agreement and quota, which is the second one, past sales will be taken, productive capacity will be taken into consideration. There is a uniform agreed price. The output is shared based on the agreement on output quotas for each firms. So, the amount of output that they are producing and that they are giving to the market will be decided. So, the quota is on the basis of quantity of output that they are going to share. So, the agreement that they are making, the firms are making, can be in the form of market sharing cartels or centralized cartels. If it is market sharing cartel, the agreement will not be on the basis of price but on the basis of something else, and that is divided into two: non-price cartels and sharing of market by agreement on quotas. So, they are trying through these activities to eliminate the issues created by centralized cartels. So, they are all inherently unstable. The lower cost firms always try to break the agreement. Since the entry is free, the new firms will enter. They may create a lot of issues. So, the new entrant will always try to have a lower price, selling commodities at a lower price and try to capture the entire market. Another form of collusive oligopoly is price leadership. We have discussed in detail this from the very beginning, in which we have seen that three types of price leadership is possible: price leadership by the low cost firm, price leadership by the dominant firm, and price leadership by the barometric price leadership. These are the three activities. So, coming to price leadership by the low cost firm, in the case we are going to deal with a firm that is having equal market shares. So, take the case there are two firms A and B. The market demand curve is DM, capital D and small letter m, which is downward sloping. So, there is an agreement by both the firms. So, they are going to share the market equally. So, when they share the market equally, the demand curve of firm is D. The MR curve, which is marginal revenue curve, will be downward sloping, which will be below the demand curve D. The cost conditions of the firms are different. So, the firm A is a low cost firm, its MC, marginal cost is represented as MCA. MCB, which is a higher cost, it is shown in the upper side of MCA. It is also upward sloping. It is cutting demand curve DM and MR curve. The low cost firm maximizes its profit at the point Q1 and the price will be P1. For the other case, the total output will be comparatively less. So, at P1 price, the firm B does not maximize its profit. So, it maximizes the profit with a price P2, where MCB is equal to MR. So, MC is equal to MR condition is satisfied over there. The firm B will accept price P1 because it is fearing a competition, a price war from firm A. If firm A initiates a price competition, firm B will have to move away because firm B is having a higher cost, so it will be selling products at a higher price and firm A is definitely going to be a competitor for them. If price leadership is done by a low cost firm, the firm is firm with unequal market shares, then the certain issues are happening. We are going to see it using a diagram. So, now the case is price leadership by a low cost firm that is unequal with unequal market shares. There are two firms A and B in the example. So, the individual demand curves of firm A and B is given as DA and DB, which is downward sloping. Their corresponding marginal revenue is shown as MR and MRB, MRA and MRB1 downward sloping. Firm A is more efficient and it is marginal cost is MCA, it is having a lower cost. For firm B, the marginal cost is MCB. Now what happens? By agreement, both the firms share the market according to their demand curves. So this is an agreement condition that takes place between the firms. The lower cost firm will be setting the price, that will be P1, and where MCA is equal to MR curve, the low cost firm will be supplying an output of Q3, but firm B will have to follow and accept this price and sell an output of Q2. So, firm A will be selling Q3 output at P1 price. Firm B, it may not be as efficient as firm A, will have to accept the same level of price and so the output it sells will be very less, Q2, that is the difference of Q2, Q3. So, this is happening in an unequal market share condition. For firm B, the price P1 and Q2 are not maximizing its profits. It's definitely an issue. Profit maximizing output and price for firm B is at a higher price, that is P2, and an output of Q1, where the marginal cost curve of firm B, it is intersecting marginal revenue of firm B, MCB is equal to MRB condition at a higher price. The firm B would accept the price P1 if there is a price war, that is from firm A. If firm A initiates a price competition, it can drive B from the market. At the same time, price leadership by a dominant firm is also possible. For that, we have to use this diagram. In this case, the dominant firm can estimate the market demand. Dominant firms knows the marginal cost of each of the small firm, and the dominant firm can estimate the aggregate supply curve, and it is the largest supplier. So, for that we have to use a two-paneled diagram. The assumptions being this much, look at the demand curve, that is DD curve. Aggregate supply curve is also there in the panel A, SS curve, and there are different levels of prices P1, P2, P3 etc. measured in the y-axis. At different prices P1, P2 and P3, the entire demand can be D1, D2 etc. It is met by small firms. The leader supplies zero output at a lower price P2. Small firms supply P2A and the leader supply AD2. The price P3, small firms supply nothing, the entire demand is met by the leader himself. So, at each level there will be different levels of supply. So, at price P1, the entire demand is met by the smaller firms, and at P3, that is the lowest price, the entire demand is met by the dominant firm. So the leader's demand curve that is shown in the other panel, which is DL. The marginal revenue curve is also shown below that in the dotted line. MC, the marginal cost curve, it is cutting from below. We can see the amount of profit and also the price. The leader maximizes his profit at price P and the level of output OQ. Small firms accept this price and supply as much as quantity as they can. At the profit maximizing price, the leader, what he can do is small firm may or may not maximize their profit. It depends upon their cost structures. So what we have to understand in this dominant type of firm is, at a lower price, the larger market shared, larger firm can produce and give the entire market demand. It can meet the market demand, and if it is price which is higher than the dominant firm agreed price, that is P1 level, the smaller firms will supply the entire product in the market. Another important issue that we have to see is regarding limit pricing, that is also known as entry preventing price. Limit price theory is first put forth by Joe S. Bain. The condition is that the firm can make use of a policy in which new firms will not be allowed to enter into the market. In such a condition, it will set a price which is comparatively below the monopoly price and above the perfect competition price.